get a notification. I did get a notification.
I see it on YouTube. I see myself on YouTube. Hey, we're here.
Myself on YouTube. Hello. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Let's see if I can find the chat. There it is.
And I'm going to cut and paste this to the interwebs. You guys talk for a second.
I mean, hey.
Oh, yeah. So that's what we're here for, right?
Fill up airtime.
It's still morning. I haven't had much coffee yet. So.
Right.
But yeah, we're here for the last couple of hours of the Kickstarter and doing some streaming to close it out. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited that we hit Opti's super goal of 60K and surpassed it.
Yeah, I'm now trucking for our new goal of $61,005, which is what we did for gangs. So if we can beat that.
Hey, there's still hope that we'll hit 100K and get the GM screen. So
I mean, you never know what's going to happen
it's a
in
very,
the next 2 hours.
Very slim hope, but you know, it's not going to happen. But yeah, we just hit our most recent stretch goal at 60K, which is the map of Neo Babylon is going to be included, digital version, and then also you'll be able to get an add-on for a physical version if you want.
Yes,
I think that'll show up in the stuff after.
Map of Neo Babylon. I don't think we actually specified if it was going to be digital for everybody, but that makes sense.
Oh, okay.
But yes, it will be available for buying a physical one.
Look at me making extra promises here.
It's not that big of a deal. It's just an extra click or two to send a PDF to people, but I don't think we said that. I just want to make sure that.
I thought we very well did. Hold on, let me look at the campaign.
Hey, I could be totally wrong. Maybe y'all know.
I was just looking at it this morning and stretch goals. 60,000 Neo Babylon map available to all in PDF version.
Look at me. I'm a fragging liar.
No, just Mr. Johnson had a better recollection.
I think it's just because I looked at it this morning too. Like, ooh, which stretch goal did we hit?
And Opti's like, who cares about stretch goals? Just keep things from the people. Oh, hey, I see Clockwork Tuba is in the chat, and hey, Rob Wolford. I love Rob.
Yeah,
Bob.
I see you both.
Bob, Rob, Robert. It's been a long time since I've seen you at a con. I forget.
So yeah, the map is going to be a life-size map, 1-to-1 printed on high-quality vellum.
No. It will be a life-size map. It'll be 24 by 36.
And if I remember,
printed on paper.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, our previous discussion, they will come folded. If anybody cares about that.
Unless you wanted to pay extra for shipping, which nobody does.
No.
Robert or Rob, thank you very much.
It's significant, a significant difference in shipping on the tube versus.
I'm happy to to do it, but it is actually a pain in the butt. I was going through shipping stuff on the backer kit. I'm already having trouble figuring out how to separate things and make them make sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh, you know what? We should put the actual Kickstarter.
Throw that up somewhere.
Let's see. Oh, we already gone up a bump. We're at 6378 right now. And we're gonna, which means we've already gotten the stretch goal that we're talking about, the Neo Babylon map. But we don't have another stretch goal that is imminent, unless we have a huge patron who comes in, swoops in, and drops $15,000 on us during the next 2 hours. Which, hey, if that's you, if you're listening right now, if you're in our target audience and you have $15,000 to drop, hey, I don't know what we can do for you, but we will absolutely honor that stretch goal for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool and all, but maybe you should lift someone out of poverty instead.
Yeah, if you got $15,000 to drop, please don't spend it on Subversion. Let's see. What was I doing? Oh yeah, I was gonna add.
You were gonna put the Kickstarter on the stream.
Window capture.
What I'm really pleased about is that we've got 1,077 backers right now.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
That's tremendous.
We went into this Kickstarter with what? How many followers on it? It was
1,300, I think.
And have like almost that number of people actually back it. That's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. It's been, I mean, I was looking at the gang's numbers this morning to remember that it was $61,005, and that was many fewer backers. That was like 600 and some odd backers.
Yes.
So the fact that we've grown our community by at least 400 people,
and like the amount of eyes we're getting on this, like it was so difficult to playtest gangs because there was so much more required to do so. So people are just picking up Subversion and running games like, hey, I think I'll run Subversion tonight, and then just doing it. It's like, yes, that's awesome. And then like getting feedback in real time as they read the book and as they play through. It's been pretty great. So we've just gotten a whole bunch of people with eyes on the game, interacting with the game, and again, almost double, not quite double, but almost double the amount of backers from gangs. So yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. See, we have Justin in the chat here.
Oh, hey, Justin, how are you?
Oh, hey, Guy Gonzalez is also with us. Justin is Koala Bear Swamp, for those of you who might be familiar with Justin online, or Crop Justin, who is also the third leg of our marketing division.
Yeah, they've been super prolific on Twitter, getting the hype out.
Yeah, I would say a vocal advocate.
Unrelenting is the word that I would use. Unrelenting ally.
That is a great. I love it. That sounds wonderful.
Indomitable spirit. So yeah, we've got a croissant in my mouth.
You have, yes. So I mean, what should we do? Do you want to take some questions or?
Hey, there's Vort in the chat.
All right, Justin, have a good day.
Yeah, so we've got, let's see, 60,378. Let me do some math real quick. And we want 61,006.
6? Oh, it's 6.
We want to beat it, so it's got to be a dollar more. Minus 63.78. All right, we need $628 before the in 2 hours. That's actually not even like undoable. So let's get the word out here. You know what I'm gonna do? You guys keep talking, and I'm going to make another silly silly Twitter post with Marduk in it.
I like those Twitter posts. I don't know.
The gods Twitter posts.
Yeah, they're fun. Good use of art assets,
Right.
Anybody in the chat have any questions or anything that you want us to talk about instead of
Well,
Me and Cliff just filling space.
Yeah, Clockwork Tuba was asking why we're not eating porridge this fine morning. Well, I actually don't have a mess of porridge in my neighborhood, so I'm afraid I have to go without.
And I mentioned in chat, but I actually did have a form of porridge, oatmeal, but it was 3 hours ago now. So
it was funny in our Shadowrun game last night for the Shadowrun Origins podcast recording. Opti was talking about how he wanted to try porridge, and he didn't really know what porridge was, and then we just came up with all these different examples of porridge. So
kanji, oatmeal.
Wasn't there a person in the
Yeah,
archaeology podcast called Kanji? Oh, that was Kenji. Never mind.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Kenji, the technomancer. Yep. So let's see. Who killed Dracana?
Yeah.
Hey, none of that. None of that. That's spoiler territory.
Didn't we answer that with the get the answer with that with the tournament result?
Kind of. So the end of the tournament results was one group was going to have been responsible or decide who was responsible, and another group was going to be the one to sort of break it. But the group that decided to like not tell everybody. So they how do I say? They came up with something, and they were like, "Hey, could we just know and then not say?" And we were like, "Yeah, that freaking rules." So that's fine. So the for whatever reason, the Emerald Gridlock didn't show up to the meet. So like that created some suspicion for them. This is Gangs of the Undercity lore, which also I guess is Subversion lore in some sense, but
it is, yeah.
And the troop found out who killed Dracana, and then decided to sit on it and not tell anybody. So in the lore, the troop knows who killed Dracana, but for whatever reason, they aren't saying so. And it has something to do with the Emerald Gridlock, but it's not clear whether or not it was a sort of straightforward, we killed her. Pretty fun, though. Pretty fun.
Mm-hmm. Good time. Let's see, what else do we got here?
Got a couple more questions in there.
Yeah, great. Everyone lists their favorite bit of lore. Yeah, I think we can do that. Let's see. I think
I'll start with a no. Go ahead. I was giving you time to think, but if you're ready to go,
I've got it. I think my favorite is the existence of a modern philosopher named Diogenes, who's a Yetin, and he is basically modeled after the ancient philosopher Diogenes, and basically I made one of the popular stories about ancient Diogenes into absolute truth and fact. So the story goes that when Alexander the Unifier, aka the Great, met the great philosopher Diogenes, he found him hanging out under a tree, sitting in the sun, and Alexander came up and said, "Oh, hey, I was trying to meet the great philosopher. It's me, Alexander, and I'm awesome. I'm the emperor of half the world." And Diogenes was like, "That okay, cool." And he's like, "What gift can I give to you, the great philosopher Diogenes?" And Diogenes was like, "Well, you could get out of my sun." and I love that story, and I love that attitude, and I'm bringing that forward into a modern character who exists in Neo-Babylon, who's taken that name and that attitude and is
does he have an exclusive club where no one's allowed to talk?
Nobody does live in a large barrel.
down by the river.
Yeah. Which kind of answers also Guy's question. Is there any plans for a Neo Anarchist style podcast for this? Maybe. I'm definitely going to be doing some Diogenes podcasts in the style of Radio Free Detroit. So that'll be fun. But a History of the World podcasts. We've got a couple of lore, sort of lore things that we did when Gangs came out. They're a little out of date, but they're not doing too bad. Okay, I'll let you.
Yes, I do have plans for it, but at the moment I have more plans than I have more plans than almost anything else right now. We'll see. I'd love to do it. That's the bottom line. I'd love to do it, and I probably will. I just don't know when.
My favorite lore thing is the goblins. I think they're just really fun. I love how they do their names. I think Mike got some sort of like statement as their surname. My playtest character's name is Cloy. What's that smell? Or no, don't touch that. Yeah, Cloy, don't touch that. I think What's That Smell was someone else's, but or maybe it was Don't Drink That. Yeah, I'm not even remembering my character's name very well now, but yeah, they have really cool names and a fun attitude. And
yeah,
I also love the Chukavrik goblins. Just honestly, it's just the prehensile tail. Goblins with a prehensile tail and an attitude. It's a lot of fun. So I had fun with that idea for my short story that was included in the Neo Babylon Nights.
yeah.
Parkour Chukavrik goblin with a prehensile tail and air Yojin powers and lots of gadgets. He has a very bad day.
Yeah, goblin names are pretty awesome. I had one that I created, and they're what was it? It was who last surname Who Kicked the Shovel.
I couldn't tell you why their last names are like that, but I enjoy it.
For no reason.
Make that up. Okay.
For no reason at all.
Because they didn't previously have surnames and they wanted to start using them, so they just picked something.
So yeah, my goblin's last name was Don't Drink That.
Oh, you talking about in lore? Why are they like that?
Yeah. But yep, my character is a lot of fun to play. We basically play a goblin hacker. It's also a up and coming rapper who raps about his crimes just in the open. Well, only one crime so far. And the guy had it coming.
Be goblin, do crime.
Love it.
24 hours to go. Except it's only an hour and a half.
I definitely don't want to be sedated. I'm not a morning person. I'm lucky. I'm conscious at this time. But
yeah,
right. Like this morning, I was like, "Do I really want to go?" Hey, who just pledged? Thanks. Let's find out. Let's celebrate you.
Whoever you are, thank you. Let's see. We got a couple more.
I don't know who you were, but it was maybe Chris Shorb and Sean Dritz. Hey, Sean. Thanks. And Andrew Bryant. Thanks, Andrew. And Joe Moore and Valerie and Top Shelf. Thank you, folks. It's all pledged within the last hour, and that has helped bump us up. There might be even more. There was even more. Let's see. Alexander Nussbaum, thank you so much. By the way, and I'll just note this because I see it. Rob, you changed your selection from the early bird to the core rulebook. I will change it back for you. I took the early bird away on the advice of our marketing people. It's still there. Your pledge is still there. It was just hidden so that nobody tried to click it or got sad that they weren't going to see it. So that's what that was about. But we'll continue on. We've got, let's do the additional calculus of 61,006 minus 6463, $543 to go until we reach our completely arbitrary goal of $61,006. And we can absolutely do it. I've just made all the posts on all the social medias. And after today, I will not be daily posting and shilling for Subversion. Yeah. It will be much more spread out from now on. I'll post dorky things again instead of Subversion all the time. To everybody's credit, they have been really, really chill about the last month of me posting every single day about Subversion. Let's see. Corey Gilman, good to see you. Igni, hello. Chris Valentine, thanks for showing up. Appreciate y'all. The 2501 Project, hello. Another question by the 2501 Project. Can you explain that? I'm curious. Food question made me think, does the temple complex play an extensive logistical role in daily life, as is believed to be the case in Mesopotamian civilizations? The Ukim, or the temple complex in Neo-Babylon, is basically the administrative heart of the city. It's where the mage colleges are centered and have their administration. It's where the Ukim rule from. So yes, it's the administrative heart of Neo-Babylon, and actual things do take place there. It's not just a figurehead place, and plus it's huge. It's like a city unto itself. But logistically speaking, like, you couldn't have the entirety of Neo-Babylon physically coming to the Ukim complex.
Yeah, and it's not like the economy is not redistributive like the ancient Mesopotamian civilization was. It's not organized in that way.
Darren is trying to tell us that the Kickstarter ends at 11 a.m. Central Time and not 10.
What?
That's what he says.
It says, I don't know. So we got 2 hours to go. Oh, it does say 11. How lame. Or not. I don't know. I guess just committed myself to another hour of streaming in the morning. If you like Opti being corrected, this is the stream for you. I'll definitely need more coffee. But you're welcome to hang out. We're all just hanging out. We don't have any content planned. So we're just chilling.
We're here filling time, answering questions. Vort there asked, will there be a way for players to influence the world of Neo-Babylon through some sort of official events? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there will. That one. I know the answer
Easy.
to that one.
I think Vort's tossing us a softball there.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have a living campaign. Let me finish my croissant. Yes, so we're going to have a living campaign that will be available for people to run in their local stores or wherever, at cons and things like that. And those stories will definitely influence the world. What decisions you make will have an influence there. Further than that, we'd like to do things like we did with gangs, where the outcome of tournaments and things like that affect the world. But with a role-playing game, it's not as straightforward as tournaments. So we'll have to figure out more ways. But yes, I love the idea. Oh, we're already doing it, right? Like Clockwork Tuba and his group ran a stream, our first actual play stream campaign, and we were thankful. So he said, hey, this is a cool Yetin character I came up with. And so I was like, haha, cool. Here's a Yetin character that I made. I got art of based on that character. So basically, if you reach out to us and you want to influence the world and you have a good idea, chances are we'll probably say yes, just because we like making people happy. But other than that, yeah, you can bet that one way or another the player choices are going to affect the world. We might have, like, I don't know, polls or other things like that, but I think the primary way is just going to be through the convention games and the demo team type stuff.
Yeah, I think maybe some memorable events, but I'm guessing we'll probably have some like key things, like some decision points in some of the living campaign adventures that we might sort of look through the reports on what players decided to do and shift the world that way, maybe.
Mm-hmm. The one other thing too, and this is like maybe the opposite of what we just said, but one of the things we're trying to do is to not lock everybody into having to know more than they need to about the world in order to run the game. So when when an adventure comes out, or when we release something, what we are trying to do is leave the ending open-ended enough so that it doesn't tie future people into having to know about it. Or, for example, like if an adventure allows you to take down an entire corporation, or, to I don't know, rescue a fairy princess or something, I don't know. We are not going to name those outside of that adventure. So you won't have to remember that, and the lore won't be built on that adventure. So that no matter what your group does within that adventure, it won't be undone by the lore. I guess, does that make sense? I think I'm saying that right.
No, I understand completely what you're saying. And I think it's beneficial for sure to not have every little thing, contradict itself.
Yeah.
Not have every little thing, like, on the one hand, it's fun to play through something that is, deep lore affecting, but then you're tied into one ending.
Yeah. And there will be things, to be clear, like there will be like deep lore stuff, right? And we will have sort of meta plots, but they won't, like, you won't have to read like 14 books, right, to get the meta plot, number one, and then you won't have to like the ending, I guess, like, whatever your characters do, right? Like, I guess you want to give maximum amount of freedom to the characters playing in the module to do whatever it is that they want to do without having to lock anybody else into having to riff off of that. So if we introduce werewolves, in one module, like whatever you end up doing with the werewolves at the end, like, that's fine, but we've introduced werewolves, right? So like that's going to be a thing from now on, werewolves, like that's in there, and other people can play with that. But like what you did as a result of that will be open-ended, and while it'll be impactful, it won't, force future GMs or players to have to know that in order to have fun in the game. Like we won't, we won't, like, for example, if we bring a corporation in, right, in a particular adventure, we name it, Nurgle Ammunitions or whatever, Nurgle Ammunitions won't show up ever again in anything, because we have allowed you to play with Nurgle Ammunitions in this adventure. So no matter what you do with Nurgle Ammunitions, your game is now your game. So we think that's we're striking a good balance with that. And then the things that we do, that might affect the big world, we'll save that for bigger stuff. And we'll let you know too, right? Like if we have like an epic release, we'll say, this is one of those things. This is one of those books, right? That, like, changes things. So you'll know ahead of time. And then everything else will reference that, blah, 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 blah. Lycanthropy paradigm. I don't think that my answer is going to make anybody happy, so... But then again, I'm not the only person writing, so I might as well talk to you about it. I don't like any other lycanthropes except for werewolves. I like werewolves being unique, and so if we do lycanthropes, it'll probably just be werewolves. And I do have an idea for where werewolves came from and who the first werewolf was, and it was Nebuchadnezzar. And we'll just leave it at that and say, like, we've been thinking about werewolves since the very beginning, and we all have our different ideas about werewolf and where they came from and how we're going to put them in. So I would imagine that a werewolf or a lycanthrope
are there lycanthropes in Babylonian legends?
Yeah. Well, if you're familiar with Mesopotamian lore, every lore answer is very complicated. So like, yes, there are dog-headed or wolf-headed or creatures that sort of go back and forth, but like there is a and here's the thing, and like I guess whoever's watching, I don't know, there is Hebrew legends and Babylonian legends, and like they're all sort of Semitic languages, and they all have a lot of cross-pollination. So some of the things, like on the fringes, where I can fill in some details with some Hebrew legends, that's what I've been doing. And there is a legend, a Hebrew legend, that Nebuchadnezzar was turned into an animal, after a certain amount of time, and then he got turned back, and so there have been some speculations that Nebuchadnezzar was a werewolf. That's not really, like, stretching the lore. That's stretching the legend, but I think it's fun, and it has to do with Nebuchadnezzar, who was the king at the time of our departure in the universe. So I thought that'd be a fun thing to say, that Nebuchadnezzar stopped being king because he became a werewolf and had to run away. And then we have Nebuchadnezzar hanging out and doing whatever Nebuchadnezzar does. I just told you something that I wasn't planning on bringing out for another. So now all of how many people? All 10 of you, and whoever watches this video afterwards, know my plans for werewolves. I also have plans for vampires, and I have plans for the origin of satyrs, but I'm not going to talk about that stuff.
You can't give away too much deep lore all at once.
I know, but I want to. What's my... Oh, I didn't answer my favorite bit of lore. That's a hard question. We've been drowning in it for 3 years.
Which of your children is your favorite?
Right, exactly. Not Lycos, no, Rob. Where quokkas? Where capybaras? No, just werewolves. Let's see. What is my favorite bit of lore? The Fairy Wars is pretty dope. We did a lot of work around that. I think, I don't know, just the timeline itself is pretty robust. Like, we just, like somebody said we could do a neo-anarchist style podcast. Oh, we absolutely could. Like, there's so much, so much work that we've done on the timeline. It feels so lived in. It feels so, I don't know. My favorite bit of lore is how we got the lore in the first place.
Thank you. I was like, I want somebody to tell this story.
So we needed something. So the process of like saying, hey, back in 630 BCE, we introduced magic, and then the timeline shifted. Now we've got an advanced timeline, 2,500 years. What does the world look like? That was too intimidating. Like it's like playing chess against yourself. Like it's so hard to be able to figure out like what one thing might have done. Like how one big huge thing like that might have affected everything else. So in order to introduce a bit of not randomness, but a bit of conflict and a bit of I guess sense, right? It doesn't have to be like perfect sense, but at least a little bit of sense into what the world might have been like over that time. We decided that we would play a game of Risk Legacy. and we would start, with some very particular groups, and we would play this game of Risk Legacy over a period of time, and then the map that we ended up with at the end would be our world map. So that's how some of the weird things happened early on. Like, that's why Santa Kemet looks the way it does, and that's why we have Babylon. There's a myth about Babylon thrice fallen. It all came from this one game of Risk that we were playing. Who was all in that game? It was Palmer and Joel and Bob Volbrecht, and was that it? Just the four of us?
I think so.
Anyway, we played this game and we ended up with this world map, and we were like, this doesn't make any sense. Let's run with it. So yeah, that's how we got some of the weird stuff. That doesn't make any sense.
A big pledge.
Oh my gosh! Holy poop! Thank you to
someone took one of the, I think maybe one of the last $500 options.
Nice, Matthew McTurnan. Thank you so much. Holy moly! Inferno Fox, Christina, thank you so much. Aaron, we appreciate you. Holy moly, we're like within spitting distance. Holy moly. Let's see. 61006 minus 60953. Oh, it's only $53. $53 more, and we will have beaten gangs. That's like easy.
Yeah.
That's like one person pledging. Oh my gosh. How awesome.
That is exciting.
And Matthew, you're gonna love your new character. We're gonna make sure of it. We're gonna make him something big.
Yeah, I see. That's what it was.
Amazing. And that's the power of live streams, or the power of people supporting you, whatever.
Yeah, I was when we were talking about stuff a few minutes ago, I was actually going to bring up, hey, if you want to influence the world, there's still these.
Yeah.
There's still one creative faction left for $1,500.
Yes, if you want your own faction, you and your friends pool your money, and with a faction, you get to. I think there's at least 3 different NPCs with each faction, so you can create your faction.
I think that's the last limited slot for the big ticket items that's left for the Kickstarter. So,
and you do get the digital assets on VTT.
Yep.
With that one as well.
On Twitter, Wraith Richwine says yes, they agree with werewolves being the superior lycanthrope. Thank you very much. I just, it's funny. Like I can sort of jive with were rats, right? Like that sort of ratkin type people that live beneath cities and things like that, because they're just not seen. But like I think, while it's cool, like there's no denying that like were bears or were foxes or like everything is cool, right? But like I think there's sort of diminishing returns when you add like an infinite number of were things to, what I mean? Like it just sort of every time you add something else, it decreases the uniqueness of the other thing, like the sort of base version. So I don't know. I think I like werewolves because that's a thing. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I don't want. I guess I want to keep the lore a little tight, not too tight, but I don't want it to be like a, what's the phrase? Kitchen sink, right? Where we just have everything that you could ever want, right? Like where eventually 3rd edition we have, the superhero supplement where like there's Neo-Babylonian superheroes, which is cool. It's a cool idea. I just don't want this game to just sort of balloon out into every possible thing, right? So that's I might disagree with myself later.
No, but I agree with that. There's definitely something to be said for choosing limitations and staying inside them, you know?
Yeah.
And not just, adding stuff. Like, I'm not going to go around and just be like, yeah, let's add playable golems because people want that.
Yeah.
No. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's not
No. Playable golems is not a thing. Doesn't make sense. Yeah. Yeah. So like Rob says, like, rat people and bear people might exist, but they're not going to be like werewolf type things, right? Like that werewolf is a really particular like Hulk or Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type dynamic, right? Like where you're struggling against the beast all the time. You're not just like, I'm a fragging werewolf and I get all the benefits of being a wolf whenever I want to. Like, right? I feel like there's something lost when you sort of take that lore. But again, like, in other instances, like you could totally have a werewolf that's totally badass, and in control. Like that's fine. We had to decide, right? Like, part of the difficulty of writing a game is deciding what you're not including and why.
Yeah.
Classic horror, indeed, Darren.
Let's see. So, Vort asked a question a little bit ago in the chat, and he's saying, would a divine or demonic lineage be an option down the road? For example, someone who's a mortal descendant from a divine or demonic parent and a mortal parent. And I sort of gave the short answer no, for various reasons.
That was my short answer too.
But I did say that we would elaborate on that.
Got another pledge, getting closer.
Oh yeah.
I'm excited for our arbitrary goal.
Yes, it's really quite something. That's really quite awesome. I'm quite pleased. The first time I've allowed myself to actually be pleased with things. I've been very, I don't know how many other people are like this, but when it comes to expectations, I tend to set my expectations very, very low, and I try not to get myself excited for what's going to come, so that when things don't happen, right? Like I'm not like depressed for 4 months about it. And if things do happen, then like it's exceeded my expectations and I'm allowed to be over the moon about it. So yeah, I've tried.
Counter to that, it's actually fun to be excited about things, though.
It is true. It is fun. I'm fragile. I like other people being excited around me.
The timer for the Kickstarter just switched to counting in minutes.
Oh, 119 minutes. I should adjust the snaz. 119 minutes. That's let's see. 119 is an hour.
Just short
and
hour 59.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. An hour 59. Hour 59. And, there we go. Readjusted. And 1,082 backers. Thank you, 1,082 folks.
You're welcome. As one of those.
You're welcome as another one.
My wife just supported us too for $25. Thank you. Kickstarter's going to take their cut and it's going to go right back into our pocket. But it's a moral victory. So divine and demonic lineages. I feel like the less I say about the divine lineage, the better. But the demonic lineage doesn't make any sense in our particular world because demons are not sentient or sapient. I always get those two confused.
Sapient.
They don't have functional genitals.
Yes, or if they do, it's only to make themselves gross and scary and to elicit an emotional response, right? Like they don't reproduce that way.
That's why I specified functional genitals.
Oh, functional. Yeah. Okay. There you go. Yeah. I'll show you a demon real quick.
Yeah. The other important thing about that same.
Can you see my little demon model? This is not made for us, but This is what I imagine a manifested demon might look like.
Sick. Yeah, so like to sort of add on to that, there's no, even if they were their own like tangible species, the lineages don't cross. They're just, there aren't half human, half elves. There's not half human, half anything else.
Now there is a caveat, somewhat. If there are supposed divine in lore, in Babylonian lore, that is a thing that could possibly happen, right? Is some sort of divine lineage in your background or something like that. The most well known of these is Gilgamesh, who had some divine parentage.
We're now $3 away from
oh my gosh,
beating the Gangs of the Undercity goal.
And we have 2 hours to get $3 more, and then we will have surpassed our Gangs of the Undercity goal, or Gangs of the Undercity finishing number of pledges. Yes. So Rob, yes, something like Nephilim. But again, this is all complicated. Nephilim is a Hebrew take on a phenomenon that, not a phenomenon, I guess a legend or a mythology that was happening in Babylon at the time that the Hebrews were there. And so I don't want to base it on the Nephilim, but Nephilim are sort of hitting upon something that was assumed to be the case in Babylon. So I will say this. There is a thing, a particular spirit type thing that does like to mingle with people, and maybe they produce offspring. But I'm not going to say whether those are gods or not, because that's a question that Subversion will struggle with, whether or not the gods are real and how they interact and what they actually are. We won't ever actually get to answering that question, because I think it's more fun if we don't. But the questions will come up, right? Like, you won't ever interact with Marduk. Marduk won't ever like step foot in Neo-Babylon and be like, all right, listen, you guys are messing things up. But neither will Marduk's presence be completely absent either, right? You'll always have priests of Marduk doing Marduk shit. Like, and you'll have to be like, why is this happening? Like, why if Marduk is there, why doesn't Marduk show up and do something about this? And so that will be the question, I think that makes the world feel a little bit more lived in too, right? When those questions come up, and yet people still continue on in their belief, feels more fun that way. So yeah, I think having somebody who's a direct descendant of Marduk would sort of cloud that and muddy that water. But we do have... You
might also have some, like, where they might use the phrase son of Marduk as being very much like Marduk and embodying Mardukian... I don't know if that's a word, but I just made it up.
Marduki stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree.
So I could see something like a paradigm where someone essentially tries to be, I guess exemplar might be a better term than a lineage, I guess. So like a Marduk exemplar, or the exemplar of Ishtar, or even a demonic exemplar who, I guess, I don't see that being so much of a player character thing, but maybe it could be an interesting struggle for someone.
Well, like a somebody who follows Nurgle or Ereshkigal, you could imagine them having somewhat demonic-like features, I suppose. But yeah, I think there's room for many sons of Marduk. Just not physically, right? I think we want to stay away from that kind of thing. I have thought too about a demoner class, somebody who's able to like sort of summon and control demons, but I don't know if that's a great player character class or not. I'll have to.
Sounds like a good villain type character.
It does.
Like somebody you have to deal with in some interesting way.
And that's always the problem. As soon as you give something to a villain, players want it.
Yeah. So we'll have to think about that some more. I know for sure some of the paradigms that we're going to have that aren't going to be in the core book, but we are going to release them. We'll have some cyber frames that we've been having a lively discussion about this week. The Babylonian gun mages are something that is going to make it in, but aren't quite in yet. Yeah, we'll have some more magic options.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got lots of cool stuff.
Yeah, just more like equipment customization things too.
Yeah.
We can have like special gear that's very much made your own.
Yeah. Oh, and thanks for reminding me, Clockwork. Like pet classes as well, pet paradigms. So whether it's actually a pet or it's a companion or spirit summoning, we're going to have rules for that too. We have had rules for them. We removed them from the core book so that we could focus on balance and making sure the core book was solid. But that will be something that we add in. We're just committed to balance, right? We're committed to not letting anything sort of get away with us. And we've discovered that pet classes are some of the hardest to balance and also make them feel good.
Gets really tricky.
Yeah. So we're trying to figure out what the best way to do that is. I think right now what we've sort of landed on, and again, there's just still some mechanical stuff that we need to figure out, but I think what we've landed on is in order to control a drone or control a spirit to do your will, you have to devote some sort of concentration to it, so it takes up your turn. That's what we've sort of that's the operating assumption, but there's still a lot of work to do to make sure that that's even like, why would you do that if you could do better on your own? Like, why do this at all? So we're still tossing it around.
Yeah, I'd say I think that works really well, but also in retrospect, I remember like thinking that was a really dumb decision in 4th edition D&D that took a lot of the fun out of it. So
yeah,
so I could see both sides, I suppose, but I think in a lot of ways, though, like the action sequences and things that go on, they're cinematics, right? So it's not so much a completely simulationist thing of like, what can your character do in X amount of seconds? It's, what your character's screen time is, whether it's you doing some badass martial arts move or it's your drone flying in and, shooting the gun out of someone's hand. So Igni asking, how is it the envoys have so much power? Why are the authorities listening to them at all, or the other way around? Or why are envoys not just hunted down? That's some good questions. One of the answers is that they don't have so much power. They're sort of beholden to the values of their community, and their community has essentially very little power compared to the Neo-Babylonian authorities. And why they're not just hunted down or squashed in general is because there's sort of a way to placate the communities that are downtrodden and oppressed by like, hey, look, we gave you guys envoys, so now you can advocate for yourselves, while really also not giving them that much power or authority. So they're sort of they're in an interesting position. Right, where they really don't have a lot of power, but they also kind of maybe do, depending on what they do. But
I mean, if the envoys are going around and they start, causing trouble for the authorities, the entrenched authorities, they will get hunted down. Like if it starts being, if you're a problem, if you become a problem that's worth it, that's what'll happen.
Or perhaps even more likely, the authority will put pressure on the community and mess up your community's lives in some way that will then sort of, just have your own community pushing back on you, or maybe even hunted down.
Yeah. The envoys are basically, to Neo-Babylon, the way that Neo-Babylon's government thinks about envoys, they are basically a officially recognized, glorified neighborhood watch. They have some official capacity in that they are meant to bring to represent the community to the government, but the government made it very clear through inaction that they don't actually care about this. This is all just sort of a show to put on so that the communities feel represented without actually having to do anything. And so over time, the last 30 or 50 years in lore, the envoy movement has developed their own direct action policies, and they've started networking with other envoys, which make them actually much more powerful on the ground in a particular community without actually having any real power in the greater Neo-Babylon, in the greater city.
It's kind of like the U.S. popular vote in presidential elections.
Yeah.
It's something that's there
as the
to
appearance
give us
of
the illusion of actually being able to change things, but they can actually, electoral college is there to limit the actual influence of the we've gotten over our goal.
Yeah.
Oh, hey.
Oh, hey! Nice!
Yay!
We have officially beaten Gangs of the Undercity. Yeah! Take that, Gangs of the Undercity.
Yeah, BJ, you were right when you brought that up. Whenever that was yesterday, day before, that beating ourselves feels like the best victory.
Should we say
take that, past selves? You suck.
Right. You're the worst. we beat you by $61, and we don't even have minis. Ha ha, dummies.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you, everybody. That's super cool.
Oh, that's amazing.
super fun. That was it. We can go home now, but we won't.
I gotta say, earlier this week, I was like, "Oh man, I'm not sure if we're actually gonna hit that 60K." I was pretty sure before, but
yeah,
it's really dragging. But yeah, it's really nice to see it just.
Hey, we just went up again. How dope! Woo-hoo! Let's see if we can't thank some people along the way. I like thanking people. This feels good.
Yeah, oh, it's nice to call.
So thank you to Todd Hewson and to Robert Wassergord. Thank you. And Ellie Lemieux Huard. I hope I got that close. Patrick Borland, thank you so much. And again to Matthew McTurnan with the big lore pledge. Thank you so much, you guys. So cool. I'm so happy right now.
I missed Fort's question, lore question. How are birthdays celebrated in the world of Subversion? Is there a specific ancient Mesopotamian birthday celebration lore that's been worked in?
No. I know just in general they do celebrate like New Year's. Like that was their big deal, but in general in the ancient world, Palmer, you can back me up if I'm right or not, if I'm wrong. Birthdays were not as important as like a sort of like whatever the equivalent of a name day or a christening or whatever it was, because babies often didn't last that long, and celebrating their birthday was sort of I think, dubious.
I think our modern sort of birthday culture in we'll say the Western world is basically a Roman period sort of thing. For one thing, people just didn't track months and days the same way.
Yeah.
So it's like not really a way to remember, like, this is the day that I was born. The Romans did do that for a variety of reasons.
I mean, having said that, we are sort of committed to the general design principle of if there's not a good lore reason to make something different, then we sort of just assume that it's the same as our world. So I don't think there's a great reason to be like, no birthdays.
Birthday, yeah.
So I assume, I assume if your birthday came up in the game, you could celebrate your birthday. And I just can't think of any compelling lore reason to be like, no birthdays. So yeah, I'll make the call now. Birthdays are a thing. Yeah,
that is definitely, I'm always looking for that. Don't change it unless it needs changing. There's no reason for unfamiliar for the sake of itself.
If it was only Opti making this game and Opti never had any good advice from anybody, you would have to learn. You would almost have to learn Akkadian in order to play this game. I changed so many different names and like had the original Akkadian names for like everything, and then like every single time I introduce something, they'd be like, is this the one? Is this the one that we're committed to? Because you only get a couple Opti. You only get a handful of new words to teach people.
Wait, so is anonymity an Akkadian word?
Which one?
Anonymity an Akkadian word?
No, but thank you for bringing that up again. No, anonymity is, it's not a word. However, we're not the first to use it, despite it not being a word.
It's like a word.
It is very word-like, and now that we've all used it enough that it's a word to us, and that's how words start. So, no, but it's not Akkadian. But I do have all sorts of Akkadian things. Like we had to figure out, like, do we want to call the priests Baru? Do you want to choose an Akkadian name, or we just want to call them priests? And so I think
that one was okay. Yeah. But we didn't. We're not making people learn an ancient Babylonian calendar.
Right.
Or anything like that. It's like, nope, somehow we just ended up with the same calendar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Neo-Babylonian reckoning is enough, right? And people already get confused by that. But I couldn't justify having a calendar based on Jesus. That just did not fly in this world. And I thought if we're sort of continuing on the divine right of kings, despite not having a king in Neo-Babylon, it made sense to sort of go by the major events and to not have time as a straightforward linear thing, but to have time as a cyclical thing, just depending on what age you're in. So right now we're in the age of Neo-Babylon, and presumably sometime that will stop and we'll come into a new age. But before that, there was the Shattering Age, and before that there was, what was it?
The rule of Babylonian reckoning.
Old Babylonian, yeah, something like that. It would have technically been like during the rule of Nebuchadnezzar, and then during the rule of Nabopolassar, and then but that's even more stuff for people to keep track of. And but yeah, so I'm of the. I don't even think I'm of the opinion of this. Like, I actually think I agree with everybody else who says don't introduce new stuff like too much. But my first instinct, right, if it was making the game only for Opti only, would be like to have just a ton of Akkadian things everywhere, and like there would be no modern verisimilitude at all. It would all just be like weird Akkadian names and things like that. So national holidays
we sort of I think missed earlier. Can you talk a bit about the work process, or why the PDF core rulebook will be released in November instead of earlier than that?
Missed that one.
The beta PDF is already out there now, so the game's basically kind of done, but I think there's more polish to do, more play testing. Still more work to go into it, but
yeah, the reason that we're not releasing the PDF before November is this is just a practical thing that I have experienced in doing, like, writing for other games, is that inevitably people are going to discover like new problems or new things that could be corrected. And I always thought to myself, if we would just wait to release things until the very last minute and like always be changing things up until the very last minute, then we would just plan. It would just be a little bit better planning, right? It would just help us to be able to be reactive to the issues that people bring up. So we'll like Cliff said, we'll be releasing every version of the PDF, right? Like, so you'll be able to have the game and play it, you know,
now?
now, not in its final form, but as we make changes, you'll be able to have them. But
yeah, welcome Shinobi, and thank you.
Hello Shinobi.
Shinobi says, congrats on the successful Kickstarter.
Nice. But yeah, we won't release the final PDF until we send the print book to the printer, because then, you know, we won't be able to make any big changes to the print version, and that'll be the version that we sort of settle on for the PDF as well. So basically, we're just giving as much possible time as we can to making the game as good as possible. But again, like we'll continue to release, you know, the PDFs in all of their forms. So there's no
Daryl says the first thing that happens when you open your new book fresh from the printers is find a typo.
Yeah.
And that is so true. I remember when we were finishing up Misspent Youth and it was going off to the printers, we just kept finding little things like, is it too late to get this changed?
And at a certain point, like it actually starts costing like $100 to fix a page. And you're like, we can't do this. We're just going to have to be okay with, you know, and you can only do so much, you know what I mean? Like we went through that with a fine tooth comb over weeks, and like
several people. Yeah. It just, sorry.
Some of the most egregious things we caught, you know what I mean? But like, we're just people. We're just ordinary men. Just innocent men.
It makes me feel a lot better about those like Shadowrun typos and things that people point to and like, oh, what the hell are you people doing? You suck. Like, well, actually, it's hard to catch all the mistakes.
Yeah.
And nothing's ever going to be perfect.
You don't have an infinite editor budget.
Yeah.
You know?
But we are committed to doing as best as we can, and that's why we're pushing it as far as we can.
Even if you did have an infinite editor budget, you would still not catch everything.
I'll see. The best way to never make any mistakes in your published work is to just never publish it. It's never the final version.
Perfect is the enemy of good and finishing things.
Yep.
So also Igni asks, are there other national holidays? Like I mentioned earlier, the New Year's is the big one. There's also festival or feast to Ishtar. There's a festival or feast to Gula, the goddess of beer. There's a number of national holidays. I don't think we've detailed those yet, but yes, they're absolutely there. Any other questions?
I bet you those festivals would get pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's like a Oktoberfest, I imagine, for Gula. Gula Belmar, one of our beloved envoys, is named after the goddess of beer. Any other questions? Will there be an index? Yes, there will be an index. There's already an index. How about that? The book's not even done yet, and there's an index. What about religion in general?
Are there atheists?
So,
atheist groups?
like, yes. It is hard. Not hard. Yes, I'll say this. There are people who in Neo-Babylon, who, while they are culturally Babylonian and culturally religious, would say, if you push them, like, no, gods aren't real, like they're just, you know, whatever they would say, social constructs or you know, reflections of these other things that exist or whatever, right? Like it, very much like in our world, you have various ways of either disagreeing or agreeing with religion in general. But there definitely are atheist is a weird word in this culture, right? Like, if that means there are no gods, then sure, like technically there would be atheists. If it means, like, you know, strictly materialist, that's a much harder sell. In a world full of spirits and magic, it's really hard to be a strict materialist. So yeah, I think that answers the question on that side. But there are a number of other religions besides Babylonian religion, though, and you have while Babylonian religion is syncretic, it sort of pulls in all of the old world religions into itself, and just like in the old world, you know, the crossover between like a Norse and a Greek and an Egyptian, right? Like they all, when they interacted with each other, they all, instead of saying like, oh, this is a completely different religion, they just found their own gods in the gods of the culture where they were interacting with. We just sort of took that to its logical conclusion, and Babylonian Baru religion assumes that the Babylonian gods have their own names in every culture. So you could theoretically have a practitioner of a Satru religion, or a practitioner of Greek religion, or a practitioner of you know, somebody who is from Britannica, or somebody from Ire who thinks that their gods, their names for their gods are better than the Babylonian ones, and they practice their own religion. Like, that's absolutely a thing. But also you have other more fringe groups. Like I mentioned Hebrews earlier, like Hebrews are absolutely still around. They're not in the sort of rabbinic Judaism form that they are in our world, but like, you know, Hebraic people do exist, because again, to erase them would feel really awkward. But they are marginalized, right? Like, they're not part of, like, people who say there's only one God and it's not Marduk are sort of, you know, marginalized spiritually. But yeah, there are other groups, and I suppose, you know, especially like if you go to the indigenous Atlantecan groups, right? They are not completely, but they are mostly untouched by Babylonian religion. So their spirits and their gods and their religion are completely non-influenced by Babylonian culture. So you'll have a much broader, robust opposition to Babylonian religion once we sort of introduce the indigenous North Atlantecan communities. I think that's a good enough answer.
I think so. That was a robust answer.
It's a good word, isn't it? Robust.
It's word of the day.
Don't know Babylonian history that much. We're digging deep into Greek. Yeah, they tend to be a lot less religious. Yeah, I think that's fair too, Daryl. Not everybody in Babylon or Neo-Babylon is going to be religious, if that means like particularly devoted to religion. Like, they might sort of, again, be born into a culture that believes in this religion, but a lot of times they could take it or leave it. Like, you know, or they might even be angry with the gods. Like, you know, if you're in the Undercity, maybe you just like hate the gods because like you might believe in them, but you're like, hey, screw those guys. Like, they don't deserve any of my attention at all, because like here I am in the Undercity, so clearly they don't care about me. Let's see.
I think Robert asked a question.
Do the different species have creator deities within the Babylonian pantheon, or is there a kind of single creator? Syncretism is a wily beast, so they probably did. But as you can see in some of our artwork, a lot of their deities have been brought in to the Babylonian pantheon, right? So you'll have, like, if you see the artwork for Sion, the goddess of the moon and hunting, you'll see that she's a goblin, or she's portrayed as a goblin, right? So as the syncretic Babylonian religion brought in the religion and the culture of other groups, it's also bringing in the religion and culture of these different species, different lineages. So it does this sort of thing where whatever form it is in the current form, it's projected backwards in time. Like, this is how religion operates, right? Like, it sort of does its best to syncretize everything and then projects it backwards. It's always been like this, right? they know it's not always been like this, but when you're forming a group of people, when you're telling these stories, you're not trying to teach them history, you're trying to form them as a people, right? So having them be included, having them feel like they are represented is important. So yes, the creator deities and the pantheons of these other peoples have been brought into Babylonian religion as well. And so now you'll see those people represented in the gods of Babylon. You'll have Yetin-like gods, and you'll have Goblin-like gods, and Orc-like gods, and Elf-like gods, and Human-like gods, and Harmaku-like gods. But they won't necessarily be those things. They'll just be representing visually, anyway, those different lineages.
So Shinobi asking, are there groups like the Neo-Anarchists and Neo-Babylon? Well, I think the short answer is yes, but in multiple potential ways. I think, well, essentially, you've sort of baked in some concepts of anarchy into the system, right? Like the direct action and mutual aid specifically are anarchy concepts.
I think they're but there specifically are, like, when you choose your when you're making your character, you have an ideology. Every character has an ideology, and one of the ideologies is neo-anarchist. Another is aiders. Another is the sunlighters, right? Like, they all have these sort of fairly good things, right? I think you could make a good case that, like, all of these are pretty good things. And we put them in there as sort of something that's available for you to choose from. And yes, so you can actually be a neo-anarchist.
And also, when you're starting a campaign, you make up a community that you're a part of, that you're envoys for.
Right.
And while the more common versions of that are going to be like a neighborhood or something, but you could have it be sort of a political movement or a subversive organization that you're part of, or a food truck company.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that absolutely, you could be a neo-anarchist. Like, they're just built in. Neo-anarchists in particular, by name, are built into one of the ideologies you can choose from.
But yeah, yes, 3 ways.
What's 3 ways? What?
Yes, I said yes 3 ways. So, like, yes, it's baked into just the philosophy of the game itself.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it's one of the ideologies you can choose, and yes, you could actually have a community that is a neo-anarchist community.
Yes.
So
all of them can be true. Yeah. So yeah, let's see. What are we up to now? 61,148. I gotta be honest with you, I don't have any arbitrary goal from here on out. The next stretch goal is 75,000. I don't think we're in danger of hitting that one in the next hour and a half. So we're just hanging out. See, Igni, to elaborate on the religion question, what's the relationship between religion and the people in power? Is the ruling class misusing religion to cement their power? Absolutely. They are absolutely misuse power. So while you have people who are dedicated to religion as they understand it and are trying to do their best and have the best interests of people at heart, you also have the ruling class, particularly the Ukim arcane class of Babylon, who really, I mean, I don't think I'm spoiling too much, who don't really have much care about the gods, other than it is a handy tool for them to tell stories which keep them in power, right? To sort of frame things in a way that allows them to keep power. So yes, the Babylonian elites use religion to pacify people, to keep them in power, to rule by proxy. But you also have people who are religious, who will push back on that, right? Even within the official, Baru priesthood in Neo-Babylon, you will have people who who are uncomfortable with the way things are for their own reasons, right? Like, so you might have a Baru priest who's very high up who thinks that arcanists shouldn't be ruling the city or ruling the nation, but maybe a priest should, right? Or maybe a divine king. We should go back to that. But then you'll also have people who, are following their own particular gods and or just, trying to help the people. You'll have all sorts.
I had fun playing a Baru envoy priestess of the goddess of storms and lots of other things, but is very much a not bowing to the power structure of Neo-Babylon.
There's certain gods that are
sort of
not
taking things down. Yeah,
certain gods are not in favor in Neo-Babylon. So if you follow one of them, you're sort of marginalized. I think it was which one? You're the god of Enlil. I think you were following. Yep. So yeah, if you're following Enlil, the god of storms, the Babylonian priesthood blames Enlil for the shattering, which caused the fall of Old Babylon. So the worship of Enlil, it's not illegal, but it's not officially part of Baru practice. So yeah, Cliff was always sort of on the outside like that.
Oh, so is Willem. We're sort of this little fishing village just outside of Neo-Babylon that was dependent on Neo-Babylon in a lot of ways, but also very much tried to hold its own independence. That was one of the earlier playtest campaigns we did.
Yeah, Willem was definitely a fun one. Corrupt little fishing village. The envoys were a mix of marginalized priests and mafia thugs.
Sort of ended with a kaiju-like moment with I'm not sure if that's going to make it into lore or not, but the Leviathan.
Yeah.
That was being milked by a corporation for its drugs. They eventually got angry and got loose and caused a lot of destruction.
That'd be a good pitch for a movie. Like, imagine this.
Yeah.
A neighborhood watch full of disgraced priests and mafia hitmen going up against a giant Leviathan who's being milked for drugs. in a small fishing village. That's it. That's the pitch.
I would definitely.
I would watch that. I'd watch the hell out of that show. All right. So Igni says that 69 is our new goal. I think 8,000 is a little hard, but hey, yes. And Darren was playing a Yetin hacker. I didn't remember, so I didn't want to just guess. Yeah, Clockwork, the terminology of milked. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. That's what was happening. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff you get in Subversion. Milking Leviathans.
I mean, to be fair, it wasn't like lactating the stuff. It sort of oozes this poison that is then being refined into a street drug.
I think that's still called milking, though, right? Like when you milk.
Yeah, I think so.
Like when you milk snakes.
Venom.
Yeah.
Yep.
Although I suppose that's kind of a misnomer, right? Because it's not milk.
Right.
All right, checking socials to see if I need to respond. Hey, we bumped up again. I think
you did.
It's hard to tell. Numbers sort of run into each other a lot.
Oh yeah, we totally did. Another $30, I think.
Thank you for. Oh, well, I like this. Let's go back and say who you were. Give you a particular name. Thank you to Jamal Wilkins and Chris Rivet. Appreciate y'all. Bumped us up a little bit. We just keep bumping ourselves up little by little, and we'll hit 75,000 in no time.
So Aiden asking, what about power struggles between the powerful? How much is the ruling class united? How many power factions are there? I think The short answer is yes, there are definitely power struggles among the powerful going on up there, but we're also not shining a light on them because we don't want to make big, powerful people and corporations the star of the show like they are in other cyberpunk dystopias.
Yeah, the Ukeem Council has about 60 people on it, and there's at least 12 factions that they're all a part of. And even within those 12 factions, you'll have all those 60 people with various, agendas of their own. But like Cliff said, we're probably not going to even name all of them, right? We might hint at them, or hint at like who they are, but I don't think we'll name them. And as soon as we name them, somebody's going to want to kill them, and just
put them on a T-shirt.
Yeah, right, exactly, right. But then in addition to the Ukeem, who are again generally the Arcanists, right? At least the 12, Arcanists who are very powerful with their own entourages. You'll also have the heads of the magic colleges, who are allied with the Ukeem but may have their own agendas. You'll also have the heads of the Baru priesthood. You'll have the individual head priests of each different god. You'll have the guilds. You'll have different corporations. You have organized crime. So yes, there is the advent of technology has allowed people to push back against Ukeem supremacy in a way that previously had not been what's that word? Easy, it hadn't been sort of a practical. So yeah, you'll have a bunch of different factions and power struggles all over Neo-Babylon. Of course, you have the gangs too, on a more very hyper local level, unless you're in the Undercity, in which case gangs are the only power that exists down there. And there will be other powers too outside of Neo-Babylon that will come up eventually, but not a particular concern in their main core rulebook.
I don't think I'm showing up properly anymore after I had to pause my camera.
You aren't. Let's see if I can fix that.
Spinning squares.
Yeah. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know how to fix that either.
Glenn Royer is saying that they're about to back, and I saw that our pledges just jumped up, so I'm going to assume that's Glenn. So thank you, Glenn.
Let's find out.
And yeah, if it's not Glenn yet, then we'll say thank you, Glenn, in a bit. When
it was Glenn. Thank you, Glenn Royer. Appreciate you. Got another couple questions coming in.
Clockwork Tube is saying Cyberware and Cyberframes versus Divine Might because this is the best RPG ever.
I'll just take that for what it is. Agree. Allow myself a small moment of pumped upness. You are dots rotating. Yes, exactly. I don't know how to fix that for you, Palmer.
It's fine for me. Not optimal for streaming.
Can you? I don't know. I'll leave it to you to fix it if you want. You can
bail, disconnect and come back.
Bail out and come back. It might jack up the way we look for a second, but that's okay.
Ready for chaos.
Or chouse.
Ah.
Did it affect things too much?
Yes. Not too badly, actually.
No. Did I come back, though?
You have not returned.
No. Yeah.
Do what you need to do. Figure it out.
I'll work on it.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. Rob says, not sure how it would work, but you would love to see Fug work with Coyote and Crow writers for the Americas. So yeah, that would be cool, just on the face of it. But also, I can say pretty definitively that we probably won't be doing that. The reason being is that we already have somebody in-house for Fug who is probably going to take lead on our version of that. So I'll let them take the lead and gather their own team of indigenous North American folks to write our North Atlantica setting. I say setting. That feels like it's like a different. Does that feel like it's a different like world? When somebody says like a different setting, I tend to think of like it's a different like a different universe. But
I guess it depends on how you look at it. There's lots of settings within a world, though.
Yeah. So this would, our North Atlantica setting would definitely be in the same world, right? And the paradigms or whatever we add in there would definitely be compatible with the core game. Right? I guess it would be like a.
So do you still have European colonialism wiping out indigenous people in North America, or did something different go down?
No, you do not have that. You do not have much interaction at all. Hey, more backers!
Huzzah.
So yeah, you in North Atlantica basically. So expansion, old world expansion stopped at Azor. Azor is the sort of new continent that emerged in the Atlantic Ocean. So instead of continuing to push west and hitting North Atlantica or North America in our world, sort of expansion stopped. And by the time somebody thought, hey, can we keep going? That gave, I guess this is just my justification for it. It gave North Atlantican folks time enough to basically be aware of it and be aware that that might be a possibility. But also North Atlantica has its own magic too, right? So the magics that allowed Babylon to continue to expand also allowed North Atlantican peoples to create their own civilizations, with their own power and their own structure, maybe in different ways than they would have been able to otherwise. And we do have right now, like even now, we do have sort of rough outlines of what those North Atlantican civilizations are and what those people groups are, because that was one of the first things that we did when we were creating the world, to say, hey, there's certain parts like in Africa and in North America and in China that we just simply don't have the what's the word? We don't have the, I guess not right. That's not the, that doesn't sound right. We don't have the experience, right, to write those settings in a responsible way, because we're not from those places. We don't have those, we don't have that experience. I'm stumbling over my words because I haven't.
A lot of that history's been downplayed or attempted to be erased as well. So
yeah. So I think allowing indigenous people to write that book feels better to me. So that's what we've done. They've done it already, at least in very sort of broad outlines. And we'll allow them to do that. Like we'll have rules people, right? Like that might work on it. That might not be indigenous, but try to leave all the lore of those North Atlantican groups and African groups. And
yeah, speaking of which, though, I think I would highly recommend the Sixth World series by Rebecca Roanhorse. It's sort of a post-apocalyptic urban, not urban, but sort of wilderness urban fantasy. There's been sort of magic and sort of coming back to the world in a catastrophic way, and it's very much written from an indigenous perspective by an indigenous author. Just some really cool world building stuff, and just really, really awesome, well-written books. There's two of them out there, Trail of Lightning and Storm of Locusts. I've read them both, and they're just fantastic. There'll be more coming out as well, I believe.
Thank you to Jeff Rhodes for pledging for the core rulebook. Appreciate you. Let's see. What is my Babylonian experience? Well, since Babylon is a more or less dead culture, we figured that it was probably safe. But I do have some experience in the ancient world, focused on Mesopotamia, mostly just how do you call it, like hobbyist interest. But
I was in a metal band called Tower of Babel.
Nice.
It was pretty awesome.
Certainly more hobby interest than anybody else I know. But also, here's the thing: Babylonian lore is a particular interest. I think it could be a particular interest to everybody, because I don't think we quite understand how much Babylonian legends and lore and mythology influenced everything that came after it, right? Including Egyptian and Norse and Greek mythologies, and even Celtic mythology that we sort of take for granted as being situated in their time and place. And it was, but also a lot of times they are either syncretized or just basically retold and reskinned versions of stuff that the Babylonians and Sumerians were telling. So I think it's worth exploring our shared heritage through Babylon. And since there's no ancient Sumerians or ancient Babylonians going to get mad at me for doing that, I think it serves a more noble purpose than simply appropriating an ancient people group. Yeah, Daryl says a lot of the Greek myths have direct roots to Babylon and Sumeria. Yeah, I mean, like even saying direct is like not actually saying enough. Like literally, there are Greek books that just retell Babylonian mythology, and they are so obviously related. You know, Greek mythology and Babylonian mythology are so obvious related in certain ways that yeah. Question for Cliff: do you have any music suggestion for Babylonian music? Babylonic music? Are you writing something?
You know, they didn't actually have recording technology back then, so there's not a lot of Babylonian music that has survived. So yeah, not really. I should be working on some music for things, but I haven't really done much music in the last couple of years. I sort of yeah, haven't really made much music, but I've been meaning to get back to it. So as far as Babylonian style of music, I don't know. I guess I would just look to pretty much any sort of Middle Eastern sounding stuff.
You can find a couple of things online where people are singing in Akkadian language, which is kind of fun, and they're using the cadence and the words. I don't know how much that actually, the style of music would be similar, but
there's yeah, there's sort of a fun artist I've been sort of listening to every off and on again the last few years, by the name of Clozee, Clozee, and she puts together some interesting like acoustic elements with electronic styles, and I imagine that's a little bit how some of the more modern music of Neo-Babylon might sound. So that, but yeah, I think there's going to be lots of different music in the setting of Neo-Babylon, influenced by cultural movements and technologies of making music that just may have never occurred in our world. So there's plenty of room for making up ideas and things like I imagine, like, something like a goblin ska would be fun.
Yeah, ska/punk skunk is definitely one of the more obvious choices for envoys, like the more neo-anarchist envoys. We just made a decision that ska exists.
Yeah. It's called skunk.
Yep.
Skunk. It's a goblin traditional music. Yeah.
And we have reasons for including ska, but but we just made a decision. Yeah.
2501 Project saying that they want to hear me record some Heteroi tracks.
Yeah,
that would be fun. I could get together with Rusty and have him write some lyrics for it, because he made up the Heteroi, and collaborate on that. That would be a lot of fun. I'm not saying I'm going to do it for sure, but it sounds like a fun idea.
It hit me again, like as I was thinking about Skunk, our ska punk fusion, that like skank. I wonder if that like came from the same way. They just took the different letter, right? You know, skanking is the sort of dancing you do in ska.
Okay.
So I wonder if they just took ska and punk and mixed it together. I'm not a ska historian. I went through my ska phase in the 90s.
Ska is basically punk with a brass section, right?
Maybe, and it's got that like sort of reggae, like up stroke with the the guitar, like the that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, like the offbeat. Never mind. My
what do you call that? Strum, right? It's got the up strum. Like I don't know what that's called.
There's a specific term that is just escaping my brain right now.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh man, we're like we had a couple of backers.
Oh no.
Out.
We had some
look them up
backers.
And call them out on the stream so we can shame them.
No, we had some backers backslide, if you will. That's fine. That's one of the things I had to get over. Like the last two Kickstarters we did for Gangs of the Inner City and Fall in Love Not Online. Every time somebody like canceled their pledge, it would be like, ah! I'd have to like lay down and like. for an hour and like go, it's not about you, it's not about you this time. Like it's happened so much, right? I just you just have to ignore it. It happens sometimes. People just have their own stuff going on.
Yeah, apparently in a reggae guitar style, like the skank or skanking is actually a term that refers to playing the strums on the offbeat.
Oh, that's what that is. Interesting. We had a question from Psychotron. Somebody mostly unaware of Babylonian mythology, will the lore be hard to pick up and understand? No, it won't be. Not any harder than picking up like a D&D book and reading about the gods of D&D. It'll be very explained very easily in the core rulebook, exactly how Babylonian religion is structured and what the different gods are the gods of and whatnot. It'll feel pretty standard fantasy stuff, I imagine.
Dakota says, dang, I missed the Kickstarter. No, you didn't. You still have like an hour.
Yeah, we are 59 minutes and 51 seconds to push us up to 75K.
I'm still here, guys, by the way. I've been trying to see if I can fix my camera thing, but I think I'm just going to be...
Is your camera being used by something else? Did it sneak in there? No.
And I actually would prefer to have it off as of now anyway, because my fiance wants to hang up laundry in the room behind me.
No, fair enough. We don't want the dirty laundry or the clean laundry.
Yeah, no unmentionables on stream. It's not that kind of stream.
Right. You were Cybernautica. Yeah. People heard like Goblin Ska and they're like, what is this bullshit? I'm out of here. Fair enough. If you don't want Goblin Ska, then we don't want you. Get out of here. No, that's mean. I don't mean that. You're everybody's welcome, even if you don't like Goblin Ska. They weren't strong enough for the skunk. Fair enough. Origins of skank aren't known, but they have been around since first wave ska in dance halls in Jamaica and the West Indies. Yeah, there you go. I should have known that Daryl would know about ska. Beautiful people. All right, Clockwork. Take care, my friend. You are amazing. Appreciate you. Rob says ska was first, then rocksteady, and finally reggae. Is that true? Did ska predate reggae? I mean, like, I'm not an expert.
I would be surprised.
I would be surprised. I thought ska was a sort of evolution of reggae, but I don't want to speak out of turn here. I don't know the answer to that. But I would be... Oh, I guess Daryl's backing up Rob. Who knows? My goodness. Learn something new.
Huh. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Ska reigns supreme. Goblin pan flute bands too? No, we would probably have satyr pan flute bands. Palmer is really low sound wise. I could probably fix that a bit.
I think goblins are probably more fond of reed instruments, like something like an oboe, but different.
Something like an oboe. That'd be a good name for a band. Something like an oboe.
That's a good goblin last name too.
It is. Goblins name their bands like they name their last names. Let's see. Rob says specials are old as hell, and Daryl says ska in the Caribbean eventually evolved into reggae, while ska was imported into England by immigrants moving there in the post-war construction boom.
I didn't realize ska had such deep roots. I had sort of assumed that it grew out of punk in more recent years.
I thought it emerged in Orange County in Christian youth groups. But no, apparently it has deeper roots. Which, okay, so if we're talking about this, which apparently we are,
I mean, we got to talk about something,
right? Which one of the things that we decided why ska was an important music in Neo Babylon is because ska, number one, is like anti-racist, like to its core, and anti-imperial to its core, in a way even that punk isn't always, right? Like if one of the big punk bands is, like the Ramones or the Sex Pistols, they are not anti-imperial or anti-racist, in the same way, like so. But like almost all of ska has a real cutting edge of anti-racism and anti-imperialism, and they specifically have this metaphor of Babylon as this sort of bad guy in a lot of their songs and a lot of their metaphors. So that really speaks pretty heavily to our setting, right? If you have an entire music genre that is anti-imperial, anti-racist, and use Babylon as a metaphor, that just fits our setting very, very well. So if we're going to have a music, that sort of best represents Subversion, it's going to be the anti-imperial, anti-racist, anti-Babylon music that just felt right to us. So that's the sort of practical reason why we chose ska as a big important part of our lore. It's not that important to our lore. I'm overstating it. I'm just saying, among the envoys, ska is popular, and we'll have ska bands and things like that. So maybe you can make a ska song, Cliff.
Yeah, maybe. I actually one of the I have a bachelor's degree in recording technology, and one of our sort of final projects we had to do was do several different recordings, and one of the things I recorded was a ska band, which was just a lot of fun. It was challenging because I had to sort of use lots of different recording techniques, and it was fun music.
Yeah. So Daryl, I hope that wasn't directed at me. I know. I guess it was. Like I made the joke about Orange County white youth group kids, but definitely not actually suggesting that that's the case. That was me being sarcastic, not actually suggesting that ska is a bunch of white folks, because I know it isn't.
Hey, we've recovered from our losses.
Let's see who helped us.
The people who were scared off by Goblin Skunk were replaced by ska fans.
People who were like, man, we're having a decent educational discussion about ska over here. These guys are clearly intellectual elites. Let's back this Kickstarter.
People in our chat are, at least.
These guys have refined musical palates over here. So thank you very much to Frank Lazar and to Peyton for pledging and getting us back up to the 61,200s. Appreciate y'all. Let's see.
So I'm going to jump in and just a total side tangent, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
So my youngest son, he's 13 years old, super into like coding and video games and stuff. He created a like super into them. Like he learns about like the technical limitations of various older machines that I haven't even heard of, and it plays around with those and just for fun. But he's earlier this year he started working on a longer term project and finished it up with like lots of swearing at the computer and the bug hunting phases. But he created a Tetris game, like a playable version of Tetris that is designed as if it were
Cliff, did I lose you?
And made the music for it and everything, and put it up for people to download for free. And he's super excited whenever he sees that download number go up. So just like to, I guess, do a shout out for that and say, if you like Tetris, go ahead and check this out. I'm going to drop the link in the chat if it'll let me. Hey, it did let me. It's called One Up Tetris, and it's actually a lot of fun. It's got sort of the normal Tetris game modes, plus also a puzzle mode that he came up with. That's sort of an innovation of his. And I would, I guess, like to ask anyone who's listening or watching here to please go check it out. You can download it for free. Yep, no monetary investment there. It's just make a kid's day by him seeing another download number go up. Or if you have a Game Jolt account, which is also a thing you can sign up for free, you can comment on there, and he would really dig that.
It is fun. I've played it myself.
It's really well made.
I wonder if you can get it to. I was holding down the control button to talk. Anyway, I wonder if you can get it to use a controller. Like
yes, but you need to use a I forget which thing he uses. He uses like a separate program to sort of allow you to dial in a controller to have specific inputs. But yeah, I've actually played 2-player mode with me using a controller and him using the keyboard. He usually beats me.
Nice. Oh, hey, thank you to Scott Payne and Melinda for hopping in on the train in the last hour, the 11th hour as it is. Appreciate you. You must be connoisseurs of ska. Or maybe not. Let's see. Rob says now Naar No Biscuit, the goblin werewolf, plays flugelhorn in a ska band. Absolutely. That's absolutely a lore thing that can happen. Not yet in mechanical terms, but somewhere out there, Naar No Biscuit is getting his werewolf ska on. Let's see. Yeah. So Daryl, we're still talking about ska, and Daryl says the whole checkerboard thing and the two-tone from second wave ska is directly symbolic of anti-racism and pro-multiculturalism, which is why ska is great. And no, ska did not originate with Real Big Fish and Less Than Jake, much less the Supertones and Insiders. And if you've never heard of the Supertones or Insiders, like, hey, bless you. You had an all right life, I imagine. Or maybe if you like the Supertones, that's fine too. I don't know.
I don't think I've heard of either of those.
That's our Christian youth group ska bands. That was okay. Their whole shtick.
I mean, that could be cool, but also could be terrible.
It wasn't terrible. But if you have something that sort of rises up from, if you have something that rises up and serves a particular group doing a particular thing, then you only have a little bit of room to maneuver, right? So like the bands that did not fit into that mold were just blacklisted and not played. You know what I mean? So you had to fit into a very particular mold, or else they just didn't play you. And that was where I spent the last part of the 90s, was in Christian youth groups listening to Christian ska. We've grown up, but that was a thing. All right. So
I don't look back fondly on my time as in a Christian youth group. I remember my youth group leader specifically saying with a straight face that he believed that yes, indeed, the D&D player's handbook had actual instructions for real demonic spells in it.
Well, he was wrong.
He was so sure that he was right, though.
I do look fondly on my time in youth group because I was the youth leader, right? And I just love the kids. Like I thought that being a youth leader was like the coolest shit. Like I don't know. I had a really good time hanging out.
I mainly just remember being lied to about God. So.
Right? Like so like it is somewhat tainted because like that sort of scene evangelical Christian. It's even gotten worse, right? Like in the last 6 years, like evangelical Christianity has gotten so much worse. And if you're an evangelical Christian in the group, in the chat, like, and you're listening to this, like, I'm not going to say I'm sorry. Like, this is just the way it is. Like, I empathize with you. You know, here's a hand. You know, come back out. You can have a responsible faith without being stuck in. Anyway, moving on from that kind of talk, we're here to talk about Subversion. You thought the Supertones was me making fun of the Boss Tones? Nope. The Supertones were the most popular Christian ska band of the late 90s.
And Daryl saying all the good bands that were Christian punk or Christian ska are just punk and ska bands now.
Yes.
MXPX and Five Iron Frenzy still rock, but are just secular bands now.
Yep. Yeah, if you were Christian, like, right, if you took ska and you took punk to their natural conclusions, like, you cannot fit in a Christian context where everything is supposed to support that particular culture and build it up and sort of make you a good Christian citizen, right? So MXPX, and particularly MXPX and Five Iron Frenzy, just like Daryl said, they were Christian ska or Christian punk, but like both their Christian faith and their roots in ska and punk led them to not be able to function within that sort of controlling, you know, right-wing oppressive faith, right? So they pushed against it and they got bounced out, right? Like they just got pushed straight out of it. And now, like, they are making amazing music that is not particularly Christian, but they have a lot of really cool things to say. Five Iron Frenzy is my favorite band, full disclosure, because they talk about things and they don't pull any punches, and they're like they're punk as fuck. I love them. Anyway, let's see. Daryl, you know who else liked music with a strong backbeat and a kicking horn section? A simple carpenter named Jesus. I don't know that was true back in the day, but I have no doubt that Jesus would absolutely skank for the Lord nowadays. Yeah. Yeah. Those of you who know me, like I'm definitely religious after a fashion, but there's a way to do it that's responsible, and there's a way to not do it. And if you can love Jesus and also say fuck and make anarchist games for people to play, then you're all right in my book.
I mean, I think Jesus and anarchy actually go together pretty well.
They do. Yep, it's a core tenet of my life that Jesus was a practical anarchist. But again, you know, I could be a little bit anachronistic, but I don't think that it's, as a bumper sticker, I don't think it's far off. there are worse bumper stickers about Jesus. You have a 5 Iron Frenzy 7-inch for me. That sounds vaguely sexual. Is that talking about
That'd be a vinyl.
A vinyl? Okay, right.
Like record. I think.
Daryl, I like your Jesus, but I do not so much like your Christians. Not Gandhi, but still a good quote. Reminds me of that Bo Burnham song. Have you ever heard that White Woman's Instagram song? Where it just like lists a bunch of things like that like sound vaguely cool, and like it says like they're all on a white woman's Instagram. But like one of the things is a random quote from The Lord of the Rings incorrectly attributed to Martin Luther King. Always makes me laugh. Hey, we're up to 61,428. We're only, let me do the math. We're only 13,572 away from our next stretch goal. Appreciate you, folks. We'll get there in 41 minutes.
There's more than 32 minutes and 34 seconds left in here, so we can jump by quite a bit.
Yeah, and thanks to Indigo Shade and Richard. Is it Connect or just Necked? I don't know, but thank you either way. Appreciate you. And according to my calculations, we need to raise $331 per minute from now until the end in order for us to meet that $75,000 stretch goal. What's the $75,000 one? That's the next adventure PDF. But if you really want to crank things out, you want to get to 100,000 by the end. That's a little bit.
I think that GM screen would be pretty awesome, but
maybe
I don't think we're going to hit that. So
it would be pretty awesome. But the GM screen that we wanted to do has like some cool bells and whistles to it, and so creating a whole extra GM screen with like lots of cool stuff would just be, it would be more expensive than I think we would be able to pull it off. So we're not even trying to do the way we tried to do with this one, as opposed to what we did with gangs, where we just sort of added, increasing numbers of physical goods. We tried to keep this one very, very simple and very straightforward, so we don't stress ourselves out over the next year, and we are confident in our ability to put out a physical book. Like, we know we can do that. We did it with Misspent Youth in less than 9 months. We knew exactly what we were doing. The book was Misspent Youth. Was it even written? No, I don't think it was all written, right?
No, we didn't have it written before the. We had one of the campaigns written and played out quite a bit. Play tested quite a bit, and I had a lot of the the rules innovations. Almost all of those were sort of written up by then, but no, we didn't actually start writing the full book for the most part until the Kickstarter funded, because I wanted to make sure that the authors would get paid before they were required to do the work.
Right.
Or that we guaranteed the authors would be paid before we actually said, okay, go ahead and write it. Because, I just didn't want to ask our authors to do something that was a maybe on getting paid for.
Speculative.
But the difference is with this one, it's 95% written already. You can download the rules and play a fully functional game right now. So
Robert Wolford asking if there are going to be regional lineages as things added to the world. Yes, they're already in there in the core book. I think they're under, is it Origins? Neo Babylon is sort of the kind of obvious default choice, but there's a good half a dozen or so, give or take, additional ones already present in there. So the short answer is yes, they're already there, and I'm sure they'll be expanded upon.
I wonder if Rob's question is not more like meta variants in Shadowrun, right? Like, so regional variants of orcs and things.
Oh, well, I mean, you've got those with goblins, right? The sort of
Yeah.
Hispanic goblins or the Chupacabra with the prehensile tails.
Yeah, we've got
not exactly the same as Hispanic, but similar.
Yeah, South Atlantican would be the in world term, but yeah, we definitely have regional variants of some of yes. The answer is yes, we do. I don't know to what extent. Like, there's no Chupacabras in the core rulebook right now, but we are going to be releasing a sort of, I don't know what the word for it is, player's handbook,
Splat book,
right? Yeah, like something that's more player focused, or
the Subversion companion.
Yeah, something like that. That will have different, like, regional variations. It'll have also different.
I mean, Yitten in particular would like have some very different variations based on where they're from.
Yeah, like bugbears. Yeah, so yeah, some of them are like just minor, like more aesthetic features. Like if you're a Yetton, you could be a Yeti, and a Sasquatch, right? Like, which the main differences between you is like one has white fur, like, but so that is a regional variant, but also like you're sort of slightly more resistant to cold and whatnot. And then also you have ogres and you have bugbears and Almaslar. So they're all like, yes, there are regional variants. The Chupacabras and the goblins are regional variants. There's regional variants of dwarfs, particularly African dwarfs are a little bit different.
The thing is, though, this is going to be a modern setting, sort of near future style technology. So then you've got all this ability for people to travel and mingle around the world. So
right.
So I think we'll also be seeing maybe some progression from that as things go on too.
Yeah. Harmaku have regional variances, right? Some of their wings go down further on their arms. They have different plumage colors. Some of them have more hair or more feathers. Elves are a little bit more mono, like they're very similar to each other, but there's a lore reason for that. Orcs have variances too. Color is one, but also some orcs have porcine snouts. Others don't. We might have a regional variant, like an Asian orc regional variant, but I'll be honest with you, I haven't really done a lore deep dive as to whether that makes sense. Like, I'm familiar with Shadowrun's Oni, and I don't know 100% if that's like a good one-to-one comparison to do as well. Minotaurs, though, are not a variant. Minotaurs are their completely own thing, and we will have Minotaurs in the next in the companion book, whatever that happens to be. Mm-hmm. Hi, Sam. I'm doing well. How are you? DD kind of spoils it because the player's handbook is the core. Yeah, that's true. But also you have player's handbook too, right? Which sort of gives you like an upgrade. So yeah, we'll have a player's book that just gives you more player options, is what I'm trying to get at. Yeah.
Person like prefer the idea of having an RPG core book that sort of is for the players and the game masters all in one book, rather than splitting it between the two. You can expand upon either like later, but I think like you should have one core book.
Yeah, that's definitely. I don't have a preference. Like, for me, like, I'd be willing to buy, 2 books or whatever, but it seemed like most people just want a core book that has all the options. I guess buying 3 different books is a little bit much to expect from people who aren't familiar with the game, right? Like buying a new game and saying like, "Hey, do you want to invest, 3 books worth in this game?" Daryl says Minotaurs have become a recent fascination because they've been digging into the history of the Bronze Age collapse and what happened to Minoan culture. The Bronze Age collapse is a fascinating period of history. I'm curious as to what.
Sounds like we should get Daryl writing for this game.
Daryl, you want to come write for Subversion?
Yeah, I spent I spent 4.5 months on the Bronze Age collapse during my master's. That was one of our courses. Just studying that time period and things like that.
Yeah, Daryl says he doesn't think the Greeks were fans of Manoa because bulls were important to Minoans. Yeah, so also there is this weird trope in ancient history where you don't like your other cultural group that's sort of around you, and so you make them sexually deviant and you tell stories about things that are unbecoming, right? So yeah, that's possible. Representing the Minoans by turning them into a monster in a maze. Yeah, there's we actually went back and forth a couple of times about the origins. That's part of the fun part of the lore. Honestly, some of the fun that we have is like bringing up a creature and saying like, hey, does this have more than one origin historically? If so, like, what are they? And how do we like bring that into our lore? Like, is there a change that we can make, or is there like a sort of innovation or a sort of fun way we can tell this story in a way that honors the sort of gist of it, but also takes into consideration the lore of Neo-Babylon? We've had some fun doing that. Werewolves were, again, part of that early discussion. But I do remember we had a talk about Minotaurs somewhere. I just don't remember where. Rob says SR got flack in some podcasts because of the Tolkien races being everywhere. Our races are not very Tolkien-y, if I'm being honest. I mean, like, I know that they're elves and orcs and dwarks and things like that, but at this point, they're more just part of the air we breathe in RPG land. But we also added other races as well, other species. And actually, if I had to do it all over again, I know the book isn't out yet, so I could theoretically change it now, but I probably won't. If I had to do it all over again, I would take some of our more Babylonian species and I would foreground them a little bit more. So we have the Harmaku, we have the Enkidu, we have the Lamukin,
I think you're sort of better off doing it the way you're doing it now, where you've got these sort of things that people are familiar with, but sort of, and we got our own take on them. But then here's also some of our Babylonian weirdness, and then got lots of options for adding more and more as time goes on. As people can get deeper into it, they can look into the different books that'll come out later.
Yeah,
feels more. I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but something that's just easier to get into.
Yeah. No less barriers to entry, this way. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my thought, right? It's just we give people something that they're familiar with. Yeah. I don't know. I could
subvert it.
But, yeah. We could be wrong, but that's what we decided to do.
Yeah, I think it was the right choice.
Hey, more backers. We're up to 61,548.
It's only 13,500 away from our next stretch goal. Getting close, folks.
It's also,
30 minutes.
We got 20.
I want to say numbers like it's 51,548 above our actual goal to make the thing happen.
Yes.
And 1,548 above Opti's goal for putting Fug in a good financial position to continue as a company and make cool things.
Yeah.
And $1,545 more. No, I was right the first time. The first number I said. Then the successful Kickstarter of Gangs of the Undercity.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much to Dan Kowalski and to Justin Cole. I appreciate y'all so much. And yes, I think it's a really cool thing to say we are over 600% funded for Subversion and almost 1,100 backers. That's an arbitrary goal. We can do that. Can we hit 1,100 backers by in 30 minutes? That's like only 5 more.
5 more? That'd be awesome.
That's a nice arbitrary goal.
There's got to be 5 more people out there that have followed and haven't backed yet, and like it just lost track of time or something, and like, oh, I need to get in there, get my pledge in there. So yeah, there's bound to be. I think we can do 5 more.
Yeah,
maybe 6 more, because like we'll have a 1 backslider yet.
Or maybe we can get to 11. How many is that? That's 11 plus 5. It's 16. Daryl, you said you like what Dragonlance did with Minotaurs. By the way, since you said that, Kaz the Minotaur was one of my favorite books that I read when I was a child, and it was about a Dragonlance Minotaur. So that's why I played Minotaur Barbarians for like forever. But anyway, he says Dragonlance made them sailors, which made sense because it was Minoa, and it was a maritime superpower of the Bronze Age. Yeah. So, and we did something similar with our species, with our lineages in Subversion. We did not try to lean into the tropes, the Tolkien tropes. Listen, let me just be very clear. I did lean into the Tolkien trope with elves. Like, there are some definite Tolkien tropes in there. But again, even as we do that, we're sort of subverting it and making it a little bit like different and putting our own take on it. But like dwarfs, in particular, like they became sort of maritime folks. And their like, history of being very charismatic and having a lot of leadership in the old world. Orcs are known for being scientists and being very passionate about the things that they're working on, and instead of turning that into raiding and barbarism, they turn that into research. Goblins, aren't sort of just sort of rabid little, parasites or anything like that. Like they're like fully fledged culture that actually, works towards peace and like, I don't know. Our cultures have like lots of different good things about them, without being reductive to the, what is it, biological essentialism? Yeah. Hey, Jexums, welcome. Got 25 minutes left. We're trying to hit 11 followers or 11 backers if we can. That's 16 more backers. Could probably make a post about that, but it would take me away from the conversation. Oh, look, Daryl's already doing it. Thanks, Daryl. Oh, you guys are doing it too. Thanks. Thanks, Palmer. I won't bother to do too much. I feel like people are tired of seeing the unicorn shilling for the new game. I could send out another email, but I'm not going to. One of the weird things about Kickstarter is that every time you make an update, you get cancellations, which is really the opposite of how I might think things should work. But yeah, after a while, like our marketing people were like, stop doing updates. And I'm like, but I like telling people what's going on. I like being authentic and transparent, and like, stop it. Every time you release an update, it reminds people that they backed. And they go, can I really afford this? And they go, no. And they stop backing. So they forced me to stop doing updates. But I think after the Kickstarter's done, I'll do plenty of updates to keep people updated. But
yeah, once it's done, lots of updates,
You've already got your money now. Ha
ha. Oh my gosh, Gail Simone asks this question on Twitter. I have a serious question about RPGs. What are the best English language editions of tabletop RPGs that focus on non-European world mythologies? Dum dum duh. I feel like there's an obvious answer to this. Well, we're probably not the best one. Oh no, Legend of the Five Rings is definitely not the answer to that question. Sorry, I love Legend of the Five Rings, but that is not it's not in any way represent an authentic mythology. Coyote and Crow, yeah, that's a good one. I think that's right. people keep saying Legend of the Five Rings, but that's just not, it's not great, right? Like I know like lots of Asian folks have just said like Legend of the Five Rings is just this sort of bastardization of like all sorts of Asian tropes and stereotypes and mythologies bashed together. Again, not trying to talk trash. I'm just saying I don't know that it represents any particular culture very well. But yeah, I think Subversion would be nice. Well, I don't know. I guess Subversion would fall into that same thing. We don't really particularly represent Babylonian mythology in a pure sense.
I mean, and we're not trying to.
Right.
We're not going to pretend to.
But Gail did tweet about Subversion the other day. She did say that it looked really cool, and we were very happy. We're all very big supporters of Gail Simone, and Gail Simone is very, very mild supporter of ours. I don't want to make too much of that.
I mean, she did post on Twitter like, "Hey, check this out. It seems neat."
Yes, and she has done that for all of our games so far. We sent her a Gangs of the Undercity 2-player set, and she said that her son was getting a lot of play out of that. And then also we sent her Misspent Youth, all three of them now, and she has sung the praises of those. And then she did tweet about us. So, yes, Gail Simone is one of those people that celebrities that interacts with us on Twitter, and like I love it. L5R is the perfect Asian culture RPG for a white guy whose entire exposure to Asian culture is anime and wuxia movies, and considers himself an expert because he watches with subtitles. Yeah, like again, I played L5R, the card game, and I was that white guy, and I absolutely loved it. So I'm not trying to trash L5R in any sense, in any way, shape, or form, but also it's important to just, the stuff that you like can be problematic. You just need to say it up front and own the fact that it's problematic, and try not to lean into awful tropes, because lots of things are problematic, right? I think you just need to own your biases, and that's fine. Trying to be perfect is hard.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much impossible. Like, I remember just one of the sort of tidbits from a conversation we had, I think when I was visiting Texas, was talking about like what sort of the definition of a systemic problem is that you just can't, no matter what, even if you want to not participate, you basically can't not participate in it.
Yeah.
So capitalism being an example, I mean, unless you want to like say die of exposure or starvation or something, like you just can't unplug from capitalism.
The only authentic response is to die of exposure.
Right. And so, but that's not an option really, right? I mean, I guess.
Yeah, no, because that blames the worker for the sins of the capitalist. Like, right? It just says, haha, I've created such a world where you literally can't survive without, being crappy. So kill yourself. Like that's not an authentic, that's not a reasonable response, right? It's okay for people to want to survive. Shouldn't shame people for doing what they need to do to survive, especially when they weren't given the choice to create the world in which they live in the first place.
Yeah.
Daryl says they can't fish or farm. You can't fish or farm yet. Maybe one day. Maybe one day we'll all be forced to fish and farm. Who knows? Speaking of Subversion,
we're up another backer.
19 minutes left, and one more backer. Matt Good. Appreciate you, Matt Good. And that gets us close to our completely arbitrary goal of 11 to 11 backers. We are now, how close are we? 11 plus 4, 15 people. 15 backers.
So that's like one per minute.
All right.
Plus a couple of grace minutes.
One person backing per minute.
Come on, everybody who hasn't done it yet. Slip in there at the end.
Let's see here. I'll make one more social media post. Hey, we had another one.
Hey,
let's see who you are. Who were you? We appreciate you. Whose name is Trent Farrell. Thank you, Trent. We appreciate you. These last 15 minutes help us reach our arbitrary goal, even if it's just $1. Every bit helps, because that gives you access to the backer kit afterwards, where you can feel tempted and spend your money.
why don't we talk about what's going to be available as add-ons?
We can do that. That's a good idea. Let me Twitter these things out, and then we can absolutely talk about what's going to be on the agenda for the Pledge Manager. All right, let me see. If I try to look at it, then it's gonna. No, I just can't look at it on Discord. Give me a second.
Yeah, just put it up. If you need to put it up somewhere, put it up over my face.
No, I can't. I can just, it's fine.
Okay.
So the first thing obviously is getting core rulebooks. You can add additional core rulebooks or additional PDFs if you want to of Subversion. You can buy, so if you weren't part of the group that was part of the early bird backers and got the Azor continent poster map with the early bird, you can add that you can pay for that and buy it. You can. I'm not sure if I'll have to figure it out, but I think we are going to bundle the Roll20 digital assets as an add-on. I don't know if we can or not. I'm still working that out to figure it out. Also have, and this is again something I'm trying to figure out, like we have an Envoy patch that is right now exclusive to some of the games that we're running. But I thought an Envoy patch was a really cool idea. So that might be something that you can get to. But now that we've hit 60,000, the Neo Babylon City map poster is available for as an add-on. You can get the Subversion Fiction Anthology, which was unlocked at 50,000. You can add that as a PDF. You can add the Neo Babylon Knights Fiction Anthology, which is the one that was for Gangs of the Undercity, but it's still Subversion lore, same universe. A lot of folks have said that they've enjoyed getting into reading about the world that way. You can get the Finding Home Beneath the World cookbook PDF. You can get the Gangs of the Undercity core rulebook PDF. I tried to keep things PDFs for the add-ons for like the previous books, so that we don't, again, I don't want to increase the shipping price for any of that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, and if somebody really wants physical versions of those, like you can get a physical version of the previous anthology from Amazon.
Yep.
And you can get a physical version of the cookbook, I think, through drive-through.
Yep, cookbook and Gangs, you can get those physical books through drive-through, and Amazon will get you that Neo Babylon Knights book quick. So
yeah, they're fast.
There's also an option to build your you can get the Gangs of the Undercity 2-player box set at a discount. So if you wanted to, play that game, but didn't want to spend $85 on the core rulebook, there's a discounted price in there. You can also build your own gang of 6 minis. So you can go to our website, pick out 6 different miniatures of your choice, and they're all kinds of miniatures that would fit really well in Subversion. Which reminds me, you should probably make a Harmaku miniature. Probably do a little tiny Kickstarter for a couple of extra miniatures for Gangs and Subversion. That might be fun. You can get the Pet Griff mini collection. You can get a set of 12 green and black dice, a set of 12 orange and black dice, or you can get a set of grit poker chips, which they come in yellow and green, and then there's a 10 yellow, 10 green. They're one grit chips that you can use for grit.
Do you have any of those handy?
No.
In case anybody. Nope.
I don't. Maybe.
Well, what about dice? I think. Do you have any of the dice handy?
Let me check. Hold on.
Okay. Oh no! Now I have to fill the space. You can't see me, but I'm here and I'm singing a song. Anybody got any questions while Opti's looking for some physical stuff? I don't see any questions yet. How much time we got left here? We got 12 minutes to go. We're at 1,100 backers now. Hey, there's Cliff. Hey, Cliff.
Hello.
I was trying to fill space on my own while Opti's looking to see if he's got any dice or poker chips handy to show off. Since those are some of the add-ons, but I think it's maybe not so convenient.
Hey, we're up to 1,100 backers. That's awesome.
I was just mentioning that.
Sweet.
You would think that.
Sims.
Sorry, go ahead.
Jack Sims asking any updates on digital assets for Foundry.
No, there's no. We are gonna do it. Oh, that might be something I can spend the next 2 weeks trying to figure that question out. But the answer is we are going to do them. But we just decided to wait until after the Kickstarter was over to spend time connecting with them. Like, so we already have a representative from Foundry that we are in contact with, and we already have somebody who is going to help us upload all the assets. I just don't know the details of pricing yet. So that would be a good thing to add as an add-on as soon as I figure out how much. Good question. But yes, it's going to happen for sure. For sure, it's going to happen. But then again, I don't know if the Foundry might want to just say like, hey, have them just go through Foundry. You know, I don't know, but we'll figure it out. A kitty. And no, Palmer, I could not find any dice or any poker chips, despite me drowning in them over the last 2 years.
Yeah, no worries. I just thought maybe there was some handy, but
no. All right, we went up a little bit more. Woo! Let's see who are. Oh, we're up to 1,100 backers. Thanks to Mark Schiavo. Thanks to Daryl. Appreciate you. And to Zooey. Appreciate you all. 1,100 backers is pretty good. Hey, 1,101. Only 10 backers away. I get like a backer per minute. Come on, folks. Let's get to 1,101. 1,111. I mean, we're already at 1,101. Thanks to David Bowie. David Bowie just pledged $25. Yeah, David Bowie.
Nice.
Appreciate you, David Bowie. That's pretty damn cool. That's better than Gail Simone.
in my Shadowrun campaign sort of headcanon, David Bowie is alive and well and is an immortal elf. He just had to retire for a while and make it look like he died because things got suspicious.
How many people are on this stream? 11? Well, I don't think I'm going to be spoiling it for anybody if I reveal that that's not actually headcanon anymore, Cliff. And I actually wrote that in. Yeah, I actually wrote that into Neo Anarchist Streetpedia. He's an elf.
Oh, awesome.
He's an immortal elf. I didn't come out and say it, but anybody who is any kind of fan of David Bowie can put the pieces together. He's an immortal elf. I'm not gonna spoil it any more than that. But there's an immortal elf that shows up in Neo Anarchist Streetpedia, and if you just follow the hints, it turns out that he's David Bowie.
Yeah, one of my patron groups that I run a game for once a month. I had a David Bowie concert happen. They got to participate in because one of the characters is a musician. So.
Let's see.
7 minutes left.
7 minutes. We're
at 11:01.
And yes, Daryl, it's the David Bowie.
He liked it so much. He's like, I'll be back. He's a star man, pledging for subversion.
What are we at, dollars?
He'd like to meet our stretch goals, but he knows. I couldn't rhyme anything with subversion.
Oh. Another one.
Hey, 11:02. Woo woo.
Sweet.
61,878.
All right, come on, super procrastinators, you my people.
You've
Make
got
this happen.
6 minutes. 6 minutes. And how many do we need? 6 minutes and 9 backers. It's a backer and a half every minute. You can do it, folks. You can do it. Create your alternate email accounts and pledge $1.
I mean, we'll take it. We'll gladly take it.
That's funny. Rob says, talk 2 people in today. You did help. Awesome. Yes, Igni, David Bowie, Stardust plays the guitar better than Harlequin. Oh, shit, I just gave it away. Oh, well. Hey, all right. What are we at? Still 11:02. That's all right. I think that. I
mean, we're already in bonus land.
Yeah,
we're in bonus land by this point.
I'm ending this stream a very happy camper for sure. I think everybody on the Subversion team is very, very, very excited about this. Although I think Ryan's been really ill.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, totally off the radar for the last couple of weeks. I hope
he's doing okay.
Yeah, I think he is. I know for a while there he was very sick. Ryan is basically, I don't know, 45% of Subversion's technical writing, and he's got a real job, so and a real family. So not that we don't. I don't know what I'm saying. But anyway, he hasn't had the time to spend like face to face, on all the socials and everything like that. Like myself in particular, like Cliff and Palmer might be able to, but when it comes to actually words on pages and crunch and making sure things fit, Ryan has been. Well, Subversion would definitely not be what it is right now if Ryan hadn't been working on it. Hey, 11:03 backers. Woohoo! Cuneiform dice. Right. So, maybe for the player focused book, the companion, maybe we'll do like a DM screen and cuneiform dice as extras, depending. We'll see. I don't know. Cuneiform dice. I know Darren wants them really bad. I don't know what they would look like. Actual like numbers in cuneiform, because that would be, you have to learn cuneiform numbers, or just maybe cuneiform in the shape of modern dice. I don't know.
Yeah, the cuneiform numerical system isn't super complex. Like, it depends how many sides of dice. If it was,
well, we're 6-siders, obviously.
Yeah, 6-sided.
Well,
although
something
about me likes the idea of having like multiple dice, like a like a 12-sided dice just with 6 sides. I've seen some other group do that, and I thought that was
yeah.
It's kind of fun. Although 6-sided dice, I mean, we chose 6-sided dice because like that's the people's dice, right? Like everybody's got 6-sided dice.
Somewhere I've got some 5-siders, which are 10-siders with 5 numbers on it twice.
Oh yeah, that'll work. You could have a 2-sided dice by rolling a d4 with only 2 numbers on it.
Or a d20
or
with
D20
only 2 numbers on it. just because. Got to be extra.
Let's see. Sam Evans says, magic, psychic powers being an innate inborn trait is my most hated bugaboo in fiction, so happily surprised by Subversion. Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome. We're happy to subvert tropes. Numbers 1 through 6 look pretty much like pips. Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to cuneiform dice. They're just expensive to make and expensive to ship.
Yeah, when you get custom dice made, you're basically paying a premium for each side of the die that is a certain way.
Yeah, so they'd be 6 times more expensive than a normal custom dice.
It's been a while since I've had custom dice made, but I want to say it would be like at least, like just to get it made, something in the neighborhood of like $3 to $4 per die.
Yeah. We can get them cheaper than that, but again, like for Subversion, like having everything go through a single manufacturer, which is what we've chosen to do, it makes everything very streamlined. What's that?
Kickstarter's counting down in seconds now.
108 seconds. Oh, come on, eight backers. We need 8 backers to get to our arbitrary 11 to 11. 100 seconds. I feel like we're not going to get there.
I don't think so.
But let me just tell you, folks, it has been an absolute hoot being on the stream with you, and it has been my absolute pleasure to have the Kickstarter go so well and to have 1,100 of you support us. That's like a really big deal for us. Like that's huge. It's like 1,100 people besides us that really want this game. That's what Palmer said yesterday. So yeah, and that's just the beginning, right? Like every time that we do a Kickstarter, we get more people, and so I'm just super pleased. 55 seconds to go, less than a minute. Holy moly! Holy moly!
All right, let's try one. Let's try one more person.
One more $13,000 pledge.
This isn't an eBay auction. You don't have to wait for the last few seconds. But if you did, go for it. now's your moment.
Oh, you know what I should do? I should make this bigger so that you guys get to see the end of what happens at Kickstarter. Kickstarter does this cool little thing when you end a campaign. I'll let you guys see it. 14 seconds left.
10, 9, 8. I'm going to stop counting down.
5, 4, 3. I'll do it for you. 2, 1. Ta-da! Yay! Look at we get fireworks or confetti.
Hooray!
Yay! That was so much fun! Holy shit! We did it! We beat gangs and we made stretch goals and we got 11D03 backers. Thanks, folks! Thanks to Igni and to Rob and to Damien and Jexums and Darren and Rob and Sam and Daryl and Darren and Igni and Jexums and Damien. Thank you guys so much for being here. This has been super, super fun. And yeah, if you ever catch us live on stream, that's a chance to get us to answer all the questions that we don't normally want to answer. But we'll say because we like to make your time worth it. But yeah, that'll bring our Subversion Kickstarter to a close. And now I've got a bunch of stuff to do now that we're done, which means I've got to send out emails and start making updates and start contracting to get all of our stuff done. But particular, I think the next thing that's on the radar is making an update, thanking everybody, sending out an email, And then working on the Pledge Manager, which should be out in earliest 2 weeks, but probably latest 3 or 4 weeks, and then we'll have all the cool extra stuff that you can buy in addition to pledging. So yeah, thank you everybody. This has been super great. Covered up Palmer's non-face there. But...
Can't escape the updates now.
You don't need my face.
Damien says.
Yeah, now it's just it's update life. Right now you're just trapped. Make sure you check your spam folder because you
will be well informed.
It'll get sick of me. All right, I think that's it, folks. I think we're gonna wrap up. We have been Fragging Unicorns, and I'm Opti, and that's Cliff, and you can't see Palmer, but
I am here.
We all love you, and we care about you, and ska ska ska.